What is going on, everyone? It is Joey here from the Commander's Lair. Today we're sharing with you another deck tech. I'll be doing my $75 Samurai deck tech. As always, the deck list is going to be in the description where you can go and see my link on Tapped Out, where I've got everything set up into the categories that I talk about today. And I also have a maybe board for good synergy pieces or some more expensive cards that I couldn't fit in the deck on the current budget. Otherwise, I'm playing Rocco, Cabaretti, Caterer, which is a card from Cabaretti. It's an uncommon legend. It's X and Naya for a 3/1 Elf Druid. When it ETBs, if you cast, you may search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So if you pay into that X effect plus the Naya is what we're going to be getting. So there's no particular target in this deck. There's a couple kind of better ones, but just broadly, any kind of decent samurai is what we're going to be looking for. There are a lot, and you can also kind of get out anything you need at the time. If you need card draw or any other effects, you can get them out as well. If that's what you need from your commander's ability. And it is a bit of a kind of cheat to use non-samurai, especially Rocco, as he kind of shooters for whatever you want, and this is more seen as probably not as an interesting deck, interesting commander for a cool deck. But I just found that any monocolored commander just definitely wasn't powerful and couldn't really stand up in any kind of pod. Um, even mine, where we play really casually with my friends. So I figured you guys might want to see something like this, where even though it's not an interesting commander, you can get any card from your deck. So you can get or any creatures, you can get all these kinds of interesting samurai, and still play a really fun, interesting deck where you can play lots of cool cards and get everything that you want out, just without having to constrict yourself to monocolors, which is generally fine, just not with the current theme that we're running. So some of those targets that you are going to be wanting to find with Rocco include cards like Isao and Light and Bushi. This is my favorite samurai, and definitely one of my favorite cards in the entire format, and definitely one of my favorite commanders. He's just not particularly strong, which makes an issue. He's 2 and a green for a 2/1. He can't be countered if that's relevant. It's a human samurai, has Bushido 2, so when it blocks become blocked, it gets +2/+2 until turn, and you can pay 2 generic and regenerate target samurai. So that's why this is really useful in this deck, and it can be a really good target for you to go find with our commander, because he can just protect our entire board. He can protect himself or another commander, or anything that's going to die, we can just regenerate it instead, which basically, if it would be destroyed, instead you tap it, and it's basically just stays on the battlefield. So it's a really useful ability, especially when we have some big cards coming out, such as Sokazan Spellblade. It's 4 and a red for a 2/3 creature, Ogun Samurai Shaman with Bushido 1, and you can pay 1 in a red, and it gets +X/+0 until end turn by X the number of cards in your hand. So basically, this obviously isn't very, it's quite unassuming. It's only 2 power, someone might not block this, and it only costs 2 mana to pump that, and it can be activated any number of times per turn. So say we had 4 red mana, and say 4 extra, so we had 8 mana, right, we can activate this 4 times, and modest kind of expectation, let's say we have 5 cards in hand, so that's 20 power, so 22 power in total for what, 8 damage, for 8 mana, that's really, really good. And this thing, just honestly, it can actually end games, which sounds kind of stupid to say, but this random, common from Kamigawa block can really end games, and it's probably one of the best things for killing people in this entire deck, by itself. Conda's another really great card. So it's Conda Lord of Aganjo. It's 5 white white for a 3/3 with Vigilance, Bushido 5, and it's indestructible, and it's a human samurai. So this is one of the more expensive cards in the deck. You can definitely exclude this, but the main reason I excluded it is because of the lore. It's just so interesting. He made Isao basically. He's kind of entangled with the whole Kamigawa lore, and the entire war was just based around him, and I think it's a really sick card. And it's also obviously really powerful. It can become an 8/8 if it gets blocked. It has indestructible, so it's really hard to get out of battlefield, and has vigilance, so it's a great blocker, obviously, with the Bushido as well. Just a really modal samurai that goes really well with this deck, and that's one of those pieces that Isao can't block it, so Isao can't protect it, but it's still really useful. Otherwise, you can also get this with your commander somehow, if I guess you have 10 mana to cast your commander. But otherwise, you're probably not going to be getting it generally. It's just a really good attacker and a blocker, just a good card to have on the battlefield. So basically, as we're collecting all these creatures, we're going to have kind of a card draw based off that. So cards like Collective Unconscious is great. We run, I think, 3 different draw effects that are similar to this. It's 4 green for a sorcery, draw a card for each creature you control, so we're playing a creature heavy deck. A lot of what we're going to be doing is just playing out those samurai. We have 20 samurai in the deck. Technically a couple of extras if you include them for other categories. I think we have 24 in total, maybe 23. Plus your commander, obviously, he technically counts as well. So just, you can generally draw, what, 9, 10-ish cards for 6 mana. It's not a bad rate. Definitely worth it. It's just a really good one-shot draw effect that can be really powerful and get us what we need to end the game, because we do have a lot of kind of win con and buff cards. So then Bloodline Shaman's the next one. I really like this card. I honestly only just found this, which is surprising because it's so good. It's one of the green for a 1/1. It's not a samurai, it's an elf wizard, but you can tap to choose a creature type. Obviously, when to choose samurai, reveal the top card of your library, and if it's a creature card, or if it's a creature card of the chosen type, put it in your hand, otherwise put it into your graveyard. So it's almost certain it's going to be a samurai. There's pretty much no other creatures we're playing in this deck. Even like I think we're playing a couple shapeshifters, but they also count. I'm fairly certain there's no other cards in this deck that aren't samurai, so you're pretty much always going to hit. So it just becomes tap, draw samurai every turn, which is technically better because we're not going to be drawing lands, so it's better than a card draw effect. It is just really, really useful, and we don't have to pay any mana for it besides obviously the original cost. It's just a great rate, especially in this deck where it's so specific. Speaking of, Time of Need works really well specifically in this deck, because one in the green for a sorcery, search library for a legendary creature card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So this is a bit like Rocco. It doesn't get into the battlefield, but it gets into our hand. And a lot of the samurai we're going to be wanting to get are going to be legendary. So cards like Isao or Konda are all going to be legendary. And so this is just kind of it's just pay 2 mana, get your best samurai effectively. Which is, it's not card, it's just not draw, but it is card advantage. It's just a really good way to get exactly what we need if Rocco's already on the battlefield or something like that. So I figured I'd give a special shout out to the ramp in this deck because it's not too interesting, it's pretty regular. But I found a card called Pillar of Origins, which is just ridiculous. I've never heard of this. I don't know how, it's only for an Ixalan, so it's a recent card. I think I must have just completely missed this. I don't really do tribal decks very much. So maybe that's why. I'm really not sure. It's two, so it's 2 mana rock. It's 2 generic. As it enters, you choose a creature type, so it enters untapped as well, which is great. And then you add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and this spell is only cast creature of the chosen type. So this can't pay for our commander, but it can pay for all the other samurai we're playing. And our commander isn't the most important card in this deck. You can probably go an entire game without playing it and not really even notice. It's more just about the samurai that we're playing. The commander is mostly for colors, and for that shooter can be useful as well. So basically, what this is going to be doing is just it's just a 2 mana rock basically. Going to play most of the cards in our deck with this. We can sequence it so we play this and then we use the rest of our mana not from this to play other cards that we might need. But basically, it's just a 2 mana rock that can tap for 1 mana of any color. It's just really useful, and obviously, Arcane Signet's a great card, and this is honestly quite similar to Tribal deck. And then Sunblade Samurai, I figured this is worth a mention, worth an include, because it's what mana fixing on a samurai, which is really cool. It's 4 and a white for a 4/4 with vigilance, so it's not a bad rate for a samurai, especially because a lot of them aren't too good. And has channels, so you pay 2 generic and discard it, and you search your library for basic planes card, reveal it and put it to your hand, then shuffle, you get 2 life. So if there's, I don't know why someone would counter this, but they can't technically because it's a triggered ability, so once they have a stifle they can't counter it obviously, because that's what channel does. Otherwise, basically you pay 2 and you can get a planes, which is pretty useful. Getting 2 life as well, which isn't bad, and if we are low on lands we can use this ability to kind of get us going. Plus the art is just really awesome on these showcase cards. And basically it's just a really great card. It's a samurai that can also fix its colors, which is just kind of additional value that we didn't even need, but it's just definitely worth it. So now onto the fun part. When we've got all these samurai out, we're going to basically be making them bigger and buffing them. So I mentioned Bushido earlier. Takano Samurai General, this is, if somehow again you manage to have 9 mana, this is a really, really fun and definitely a potent target for our commander. It's a 3/3 legendary creature human samurai with Bushido 2, and each other samurai you control gets +1/+1 for each point of Bushido it has. So I really love Bushido as a mechanic. It's not the greatest obviously because it's, things have to be blocked or be blocking to use the ability, but when they get +1/+1 for their Bushido, this gets really powerful. So Konda becomes an 8/8 just on face, and he becomes a 13/13 when he becomes blocked. Isao becomes a 4/3 I think, which is just great obviously again for 3 mana. It's not bad. Just all these kind of cards, because we're playing a lot of the original Kamigawa Bushido cards, basically just makes a samurai massive, and it's just really fun way to play around the card. And it works really well with the other buff effects in this deck, like Overrun, which is 2 green, which is hard to cast for 3 green, but it's definitely doable. Gives the creatures +2/+3 and gains trample. So basically, we're going to make our creatures massive. They're going to have that Bushido effect, so they're going to get big. They're going to get bigger from Overrun. They're going to get the Bushido triggers. And if Takeno's out, they're going to basically get really, really big, obviously. And then the trample makes it pump over, so all that extra power that they've gotten from the Bushido is going to trample over and basically kill people. So these cards work. This works really well in that synergy with those Bushido. Other cards like Rally the Ranks is useful as well. It's 1 and a white for an enchantment. When it enters, you choose a creature type, obviously again samurai, and creatures chosen track +1/+1. So it's just a nice little boost for only 2 mana for all of our samurai, and it's just a nice way to keep our deck pumped up and going. So besides making our creatures massive, there's a couple of other tricky ways that we're going to be kind of winning the game And that's cards like Mirror Entity, technically is above spell as well. Still Knight for 1/1, it's a shapeshift, so it has Changeling, which is useful because it counts as a samurai, so we can search for it if we need to win the game. We can find that with Rocco, otherwise it just counts to all the samurai effects that we have in the deck. And basically you can pay X and creature you control become an XX and gain all creature types at the end of turn. So basically we can set this however much mana we have. If we have 10 mana, we can make them all 10/10s, which is obviously a lot bigger than they were going to be regularly. So pair this with a card like Overrun, or even just on its face value, this can generally be enough to win the game. And also, it doesn't die when you use the ability because it's not an instant or sorcery. It doesn't sacrifice itself, so it's reusable. If somehow we don't win the game, we can just use it again next turn. Yeah, I believe it's pronounced Izuka the Ruthless, isn't bad either. It's 3 red for a 3/3 with Bushido 2. It's a samurai as well, obviously. And you can pay 2 in a red and sacrifice a samurai, and samurai you control get Devil Strike in turn. So it doesn't have to sacrifice itself, so it can sacrifice a token that we made that's a samurai, which we do a couple times. Or any other kind of smaller samurai creatures, or just anything irrelevant or thing that we don't need. It can obviously sacrifice itself as well, which is in the end of the world, because Double Strike is really powerful. And so basically this is repeatable, we can do it every turn if we need to. Just incredibly powerful, just constant Double Strike on all of our creatures and all of our samurai. It's a surefire way to win the game, especially when paired with a card like Master Warcraft. It's 2 and Hybrid Boros, so 4 mana total for an instant, and cast it only before attackers are declared. And so you choose which creatures attack this turn, you choose which is block this turn, how those creatures block. So this has obviously been able to use it in many different ways, defensive and offensive. So I'll go over defense briefly. So you can basically just pick that no creatures attack, right? So that your opponent just can't attack that turn. Or there are better cards that do this, but 4 mana still is okay if you're going to stop you from losing the game. Cards like False Peace do this for only 1 mana, which is a lot better, obviously. But this is other ways you can use it. So you can make your opponent's creatures kill their vital pieces. So say someone has Oracle of Moldiah, and someone has their Wylith Tron deck, right? You can make the Wylith be blocked by the Oracle of Moldiah and kill the Oracle of Moldiah. So that's really useful. You can play it in that kind of tricky political way if you wanted. And then obviously the best way that we're going to be doing it is obviously picking everything to attack, because we want to attack with all of our creatures, right? Swing at all of our creatures and make our opponents not able to block. We pick none of the creatures able to block, and we basically just make sure makes all of our own creatures unblockable for 4 mana. Just a really useful modal win con that we can definitely include in the deck and use in so many different ways. So that's going to be all for this video today. I hope you guys like it. So again, as I mentioned, I do really kind of feel unfortunate that I couldn't make an actual samurai as the commander, but again, it's a really fun way to kind of test out what's possible with the cards from New Capenna and the new commanders, especially with Rocco, which is just such a fun toolbox commander that can do so much. I do actually have an Iseo deck. It's not a samurai tribal deck because there's literally only 2 green samurai. Iseo and then Jade Ninja, I believe, something like that. Jade Samurai. Jade Avenger, sorry, yes, which is the frog one from Modern Horizons 2, which is honestly a decent card. It's in this deck as well. But that's an Iseo Tron deck, so if you guys would like to see that, I can post that as well. I think it's also only around $60-ish, so it's quite budget as well. Otherwise, that is this deck tech. I hope you guys liked it. Let me know what else you want to see, if there's another theme or another command or another kind of deck that you want to see. I can make that for you and post a video. Or if you want to see a different kind of video, I posted one of my underrated cards videos. But I just think cards that are cool in the format. If you have any other deck ideas or kind of ideas for videos, like, discussing cards from the new releases, let me know, and I'll be sure to do that as well. Otherwise, thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Make sure to like and subscribe.